Hi, my name's Tim Bayman. I hope you're all going well. In today's video, you're going to learn about the brain, its fundamental functions, and philosophical interpretations. So learning about both sides of the brain and applying that knowledge in your day-to-day activities will better equip you to handle a broad range of situations you may face. I have a keen interest in biology. I also study philosophy and more recently topics on human consciousness and natural law principles. So the ancient Greeks were among the first people to study the brain, and you may well have heard the phrase know thyself, and this is attributed to ancient Greek philosophy and is inscribed over the entrance of the temple to Apollo. And it's often associated with Socrates, who viewed self-examination as the highest endeavour. So therefore, understanding the self is really key for individual growth, and a holistic approach is required when learning about the mind and the brain. And I've found that this is done by utilising both ancient and modern teachings. So when viewing the brain from the top down, we can divide the brain into two hemispheres, which we will simply call the left brain and the right brain. Now, the right-hand side of the brain is generally classed as the feminine side, responsible for holistic thought, intuition, nurturing qualities, and it's also associated with creative aspects of the self, including art, music, dance, for example. And when we go over to the other side of the brain, the left-hand side, it's generally seen to exhibit more masculine qualities, accounting for logic, scientific and analytical thought, and it primarily deals with spatial qualities in the physical realm. So look, activation of both sides is key, and avoiding one side dominating the other, and that's going to ensure a balanced mind. So seeking activities that perhaps stimulate and challenge those respective areas of the brain is key. For example, I don't know, you may work in accounting, for example, and you crunch numbers on a day-to-day basis, and it might pay to learn how to play a musical instrument if you haven't done so already. You may teach fine arts. It could be beneficial to attempt some puzzle games in your spare time. Another challenge that's been suggested to me, and I've tried using, is to harmonise both sides of the mind, is to use your non-dominant hand for a task of your choosing. So additionally, these two hemispheres, they correspond with Eastern teachings, that being the symbology of yin and yang, the black half yin, representing feminine and passive qualities, the white half yang, representing more masculine and active characteristics. And it's really symbolic of the interplay and the connectedness between both forces. And you'll find in the design, the curved lines within it, they signify fluidity, and overall the symbol represents wholeness and unity and harmony. And if you do find that someone is overly left brain dominant, they may exhibit rigidness, controlling behaviours, and reduced individuality. And conversely, if someone is overly right brain dominant, they may lack focus, they might act illogically, they may demonstrate irrational emotional states. So going further into the brain, and in addition to the two main hemispheres, we can look at the following three sections that you can see on the image now. And you've got the R complex. And this is often referred to the reptilian brain, which is responsible for those fight or flight modalities. And a great illustration of this is in an image that was captured by wildlife photographer Najib Ahmed. And whilst working in a paddy field, workers were confronted by a large tiger, which made its way over from a nearby nature reserve in India. And the majority of the workers, understandably, can be seen fleeing the animal. However, one individual stands his ground, pole at the ready. Secondly, there we've got the limbic system, which is known as the mammal brain, or the central brain, which is the center of emotion and care. Thirdly, the frontal neocortex, which is the human brain. It's going to cover higher conceptual thinking and thought processes, reasoning, sensory perception, language, and compassion. Okay, so Therefore, by understanding these aspects of mind, a process of self inquiry and personal transformation can really flow. And Carl Jung stated, "Who looks outside dreams are who looks inside awakes." And both the female and male aspects of the brain need to be engaged, working together as a whole. This is to ensure a balanced mind, which is better able to navigate the challenges of reality. So, as human beings, we have a responsibility, I believe, to understand ourselves and the world that we collectively create. And this is done through seeking of knowledge and truth and applying that knowledge via the will. We have the capacity for higher order thought, discernment, and we experience emotions, and these act as a moral compass. It's our inherent ability to distinguish between right and wrong. When everything's working correctly, and it's an inner knowing, if you will, and we can then align our actions as they'll come from a place of wisdom, true care, and understanding.